He will only chase you once you have gone completely ghost. The funny thing is, when you stop talking, you have had enough of his bullshit, and you go ghost, that is when they always want to come back.
What happens when someone blocks their husband right before a girl's trip? You're about to find out, and trust me, the ending will shock you. This story perfectly captures why modern dating feels like navigating a minefield blindfolded. Stay until the end, because the lesson here will change how you think about relationships forever. Picture this scenario. You're married, things are getting rocky, and instead of having an adult conversation, you decide to block your husband 4 days before heading out on a girls' trip. That's exactly what happened to one woman who thought she was making a power move. Spoiler alert, it backfired spectacularly. But before we dive into her story, let's talk about the current dating landscape because honestly, it's a complete disaster zone. Everyone's walking around with these impossible standards while simultaneously bringing nothing to the table themselves. I'm seeing women complain about not getting approached at bars, then immediately explaining away every possible reason why men might not be interested. It's never their fault, apparently. Take this one woman who went to an Oklahoma hotel bar expecting to find her soulmate. She sat there with her laptop, looking busy, then closed it to appear more available. She had multiple glasses of wine, checked her appearance, even wondered if wedding rings were throwing guys off. But here's the kicker. She never once considered that maybe her energy or approach was the issue. Instead, she rationalized that God was telling her her man wasn't in Oklahoma.
Believe in yourself. When you think you can't do this, or you're just not good at it, is the time you need to believe in yourself the most.
This victim mentality is everywhere now. People refuse to take accountability for their dating failures. They'd rather blame external circumstances than examine their own behavior patterns. And speaking of accountability, let's talk about this fascinating phenomenon happening with dating expectations. I've been hearing more women describe experiences that sound exactly like what men have been complaining about for years. One woman went on a date where she got asked out, but when the check came, her date never offered to pay. Not even the fake purse reach. No thank you afterward either. Then she got ghosted. Suddenly, she understood why her male friends felt used after paying for dates that led nowhere. She realized both people had invested time getting ready, both had expenses, yet only one person was expected to cover everything. It's interesting how perspective changes when you're on the receiving end of poor dating etiquette. This connects to a bigger issue about modern relationships. People have become transactional rather than relational. They're calculating what they can get rather than what they can give. Everything becomes about extracting value instead of creating mutual benefit. Now back to our main story about the woman who blocked her husband. She went on what she described as a relaxing girls' trip, not some wild party vacation. Her friend was getting married and didn't even drink alcohol. The other women were all in serious relationships. This wasn't some bachelorette party chaos situation. But here's where it gets interesting. She blocked her husband 4 days before leaving, thinking this would somehow make him chase her or fight for the relationship. She had this fantasy that he'd be waiting at the airport when she returned, ready to grovel and win her back. That's not what happened. Instead, when she walked out of that airport, she found herself scanning the crowd, secretly hoping he'd be there despite blocking him. She expected him to just sit at home, pining away, until she decided to unblock him and grace him with her presence again. But real life doesn't work like romantic comedies. When you block someone and disappear,
Remember, the first step to forgiveness is realizing that the other person was born.
You're essentially communicating that you don't want them in your life. Most mature adults will respect that boundary and start moving forward without you. While she was on her relaxing retreat, her husband was apparently doing exactly that. Moving forward. And when she came back expecting to find him waiting with open arms, she discovered he'd already begun the process of moving on. Now she's making TikTok videos crying about regret, but it's too late. She gambled with her marriage, thinking she held all the cards, and lost everything. This story perfectly illustrates a crucial point about loyalty and commitment. Loyalty isn't about feelings, it's about choices. You don't get to disappear from someone's life whenever you feel like it, then expect them to be there when you decide to return. The blocking strategy is particularly toxic because it's designed to punish and control. It's saying, I'm going to cut off all communication to hurt you, but I expect you to just wait around until I'm ready to talk again. That's not how healthy relationships function. What makes this even more tragic is that she admits her husband was a great father and provider. She couldn't have picked a better man to be the father of her children. But somewhere along the way, she started taking that for granted and began checking out emotionally. The reality is that good men don't wait around indefinitely for people who treat them poorly. They have options and self-respect. When someone blocks them and disappears, they take that as a clear message about how little they're valued. This connects to a broader pattern I'm seeing where people, especially women, are convinced they have unlimited time and options. They think they can treat people badly, walk away whenever they feel like it, and everyone will just wait around for them to come back. But relationships require consistent investment from both people. You can't just check out whenever things get difficult and expect the other person to maintain everything alone. The dating market has also created this illusion that everyone has endless choices. Social media makes it seem like there are always better options just a swipe away. But this abundance mentality often leads to people discarding perfectly good relationships for fantasy alternatives that don't actually exist. The woman in our story learned this lesson the hard way. She threw away a solid marriage for what exactly? The temporary satisfaction of punishing her husband? The fantasy that he'd chase after her? The belief that she could do better? Now she's back in the dating pool, discovering what many women in their 30s are realizing. The men worth having aren't sitting around waiting to be rescued from loneliness. They're building lives, focusing on their goals, and choosing partners who add value rather than drama. The modern dating scene is particularly brutal for people who've been out of it for years.
If you ask a girl out and she keeps saying she's busy or always has an excuse, understand that. If she's not making herself available to see you, she is not interested.
Everything has changed. Standards are higher, patience is lower, and everyone's been hurt before. People are much quicker to walk away from situations that feel toxic or manipulative. This is why blocking someone before a trip was such a catastrophic miscalculation. It sent the message that the relationship was over. And most people, when they receive that message clearly, will start acting accordingly. The lesson here isn't just about blocking or girls' trips. It's about understanding that actions have consequences. Relationships require consistent care, and you can't treat people poorly and expect them to stick around indefinitely. Good relationships end not because of one big dramatic moment, but because of accumulated small betrayals, disrespects, and taken for granted moments. Death by 1,000 cuts rather than one fatal blow. If you're in a relationship right now, learn from this story. Don't play games with people's emotions. Don't use manipulation tactics like blocking or disappearing to get attention. Don't assume the other person will just wait around, no matter how poorly you treat them. Instead, communicate directly about problems. Invest consistently in the relationship. Show appreciation for what you have, rather than constantly looking for something better. Because once someone truly good walks away from you, there's usually no getting them back. They've moved on to people who actually value what they bring to the table. Remember, loyalty isn't about feelings changing day to day. It's about making choices that honor your commitments even when emotions are complicated. Too many people forget this until it's too late.